And this is the second unpack session. This is your chance to be a fly on the wall as we unpack separation anxiety and Penelope's full case plan with Cristina. If you're enjoying the podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode. But now it's time to settle in with us and unpack. So obviously the three main kind of behaviors are the separation anxiety, which is not really a behavior. Separation anxiety is many behaviors. The lack of confidence in response to new and novel items, not so much environments like objects, items specifically. Yeah. And the lack of just overall independence, which is tied to the separation anxiety. The management in place we've sort of talked about a lot is really, really solid. The meds made a world of difference. I know once we got the right level for her to be just comfortable on a day-to-day basis. The physical exercise routine is just like chef's kiss, top notch. She plays and gets a walk in the morning before you leave, plays and walks in the evening, and goes to agility for funsies once a week. We like that.
So good. So good.
So good. And you can see like more confidence, I think, at the agility now that she's built up more comfort in that environment than you would expect from her. So that's such a good thing to keep building and keep pushing.
Yeah, literally.
Something I don't know if I wrote it down somewhere, but I had the thought of, I think it could be really cool to see if your agility instructor would start kind of like running point on some of these drills with Penelope and having Penelope look to another human in that moment and build up just a little bit of like confidence and attack while you're on the other, the first run it with her and then step away and then try and build up to have your goal be that the instructor could run her on the agility course while you're across the room. That would be big. That would be huge for confidence and independence. I don't think I wrote that down, but I had that thought.
It's interesting enough that the trainer literally on last Friday mentioned, she was like, I have noticed a difference in Penelope's confidence, even while she's here. The way she interacts with the other handler and her, all three of us, basically, how she's not as attached to me in that environment now. She will go say hi and want love and affection from the trainer when she's supposed to be on the teeter.
And I feel, well, we're not really taking the agility too seriously, so that's okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I think that the reason that I would do that here, where I wouldn't always say like, well, let's just pass the leash, because we have a lot of agency here. During the agility, there's no leash. She could just walk away. She could run back to you at any point she wants, right? And she probably will a couple times. And that's something that we take as information. But I think that it sets it up to be confidence building. It sets it up to build independence. It sets it up to have environmental reinforcers that are like those secondary reinforcers, because what's the easiest item on the agility course for her favorite one?
A-frame.
The A-frame. Okay. And she likes it, and every time she goes on it or goes over it, she gets a treat, right? So the treat's the primary reinforcer, right? Over time, because she's done it hundreds and hundreds of times now, that A-frame is now a secondary reinforcer. It's also reinforcing to her. So there's going to be a lot going on, because you built up so much reinforcement in that place on those items. It's going to transfer over to that experience with a different handler. I think we have a lot of opportunity to use that Friday. Is it on Friday nights?
It is. I have no life.
That's how I would spend my Friday nights. Are you kidding me?
I heard that. That sounds divine for a Friday night. Oh,
that would be so much fun, because you're gonna be with another dog nerd and your dog. Like those are the only two people I want to be with.
Don't tell anybody. I think that's awesome that you guys are doing that. That's such a great opportunity to. I second everything she just said. It's a great opportunity to remind yourself, like, this is the place. This is the place where I can push it a little bit further and feel confident and not feel uncomfortable. And if something does happen or does go wrong or doesn't go as planned, these people are here to support me.
And knowing like worst case scenario is she'll opt out of something.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, she's like, I don't want to do that. Okay.
And she'll just run back to you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Before anything else. She's not a dog that's lashing out in any type of way. And these moments would never be tied to the separation anxiety, because she's never going to be left there. So there's not going to be any of those feelings there. Right. Whereas I want to be working on similar things with your family, but at a way less level, because I actually want to work up to you being able to leave.
Yeah.
And have it. Well, I mean, you do leave, and she's not cool with it. So
yeah. She's actually doing really good today. I actually checked on her before we started, and she was not by the door. She was by the couch
Oh,
on the
okay.
rug.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You
Yeah.
know, I definitely don't talk about it a lot because like he's not really home alone often, but Remy sulks hard when I leave. Like even when my husband's here, he's like Remy just sits by the door the
Hmm.
whole time. He
Hmm.
doesn't play with his toys. When I'm here,
Hmm.
he'll just go grab a toy and go swing it around and play like, "Ooh, he's feeling good." My husband's like, he doesn't do that when you're not here. Like I recognize and I see it more than I want to, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of dogs are suffering from the level of separation anxiety that Penelope feels, but their owners maybe aren't as in tune to it.
Yeah.
That's just the truth.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think
Like
a lot more dogs have it.
an example of that, Christina, I'm sure you've seen it, is when people will film their dogs coming into the bathroom with them, and then they tell that story about how in the wild dogs watch each other's backs so that they can go to the bath. That ain't true. That dog has separation anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that means that you cannot use the restroom without your dog coming in. I also struggle to manage Enzo's separation anxiety. When you create a lifestyle where your dog is with you all the time, you will inherently accidentally condition in these things that you really don't necessarily want, but that is a consequence of living so closely with my dog, and it's something that is like a risk versus benefit to me. So I just try to mitigate the symptoms of overall separation anxiety as much as I can. So I certainly don't want you to feel alone. You're just really in tune to the fact that your dog is suffering and that you are uncomfortable and that you can't like leave. And you
And
would
you
be
have to leave in a
surprised.
way that we don't.
Correct. And you'd
Yeah.
be surprised how many people these topics don't even come up to them. They're not even aware that they need to seek help for this. So I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I know
I
I deal
There's
with.
also, I just don't
sorry.
want to be that neighbor, because I know that she
Good for
vocalizes when I'm not
you.
around, and I don't want to.
I
I don't want to
appreciate
be that neighbor.
that.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you to care about. Society has rights.
Mhm.
Other people around you have rights as well. So I really appreciate that you consider that too.
I do
Yeah.
want to also just say that, yes, I agree with that. But also, I believe that you've gotten Penelope's vocalizations down to a level that is it's like 20 minutes max on
Yeah,
her worst days. I'm like, to me, that's reasonable.
I
If
agree.
if when you leave your dog barks for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and then they're done for the day, like you've worked down to that level. So yes, society matters, but also you're in a condo, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If they
So like
don't want to hear dogs barking at
don't share
all, they
walls.
need
Then they
to
need
choose to live at a different place.
yeah.
I
They
would
need to go
agree.
to apartments that don't allow dogs, or they need to be in a single family home, which I know not everybody can afford. Like we rent a twin and we recognize that we share a wall with somebody, right? Like,
Hmm.
and it's our landlord. So there's no excuse. Like I have to keep the barking. So I get it. I do. But I also feel like,
Hmm.
but he also has dogs and he understands like, they're gonna bark a little. Like dogs bark.
Yeah.
So I think no barking, unfair
Mhm.
expectation. And I think you've worked really hard to get her there. I'm not going to stop bragging on you because I know how much work you've put in up to this point.
Thank
Which
you.
kind of leads into not the next one on the list, but the bottom one, the routine, and just how you got such a clear, consistent routine for Penelope. People don't want to make that accommodation for their dogs.
People
They
don't want
don't
to
want
make
to.
that accommodation for themselves.
No, that's a tough adjustment
So
for
you're
people.
doing
And
awesome.
Thank
yes,
you.
the consistency that you have in her life, I think, is so important. And I do not think you would be anywhere near where you are without it. I think if everything else fell away and you had this consistency, like this is
Mhm.
the most important thing for a dog like this because it's predictable. And without the predictability, she has nothing to like latch onto.
I think so.
Discipline and staying with this routine, being really disciplined about making sure that you just show up for that every day will carry you places that motivation, inspiration, all of that stuff will kind of wax and wane, but just showing up every day will get you results that nothing else would have gotten you. So it's like literally the most important foundational piece that you could have, and you already have it. So it's like hang on to that.
Thank
And
you.
tell yourself that, like on days when it feels bad or like you're maybe not making progress, I showed up. So overall, I am making progress and it is okay.
Yeah.
And then the last,
can be
sorry, go ahead.
challenging. It can be challenging sometimes, and you do get kind of like, oh,
Discouraged. Yeah.
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 It's normal.
I haven't had too many of those days as of lately. So
Good.
that's good.
Yeah. It's a good sign of progress.
Exactly.
Another thing that we do with a lot of separation anxiety cases is sound masking, but that's something that we didn't feel was necessary because she's not sound triggered, which is awesome. I think separation anxiety is most dangerous when it's paired with a sound sensitivity, because then they have these triggering moments that you're not there to help with, which is it sucks.
Yeah.
So
I might be throwing a wrench into things, and I didn't talk about this before, but I think she has confinement anxiety. Like, she definitely. I got rid of the crate. I think maybe I did mention that.
I think you have mentioned that. Yep.
I got rid of the crate completely, so she like never in a crate anymore. Which
I don't know that you need a crate because she's not destructive. There's no other issues, and having her be in a really small area was anxiety inducing. It wasn't helping. It was harming. I think there's opportunities to potentially, if we create a little bit more, you can create some type of space. You can use a pen, you can, maybe put a gate so she can't get to the front door to just block her from like the area that's kind of like the worst of it. I just am the opinion that dogs don't need to be near front doors. There's like no good reason unless they're going through them.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
So I love to have gates in front of the door in your house so they just can't get to about 2 to 3 feet. And that gives you places to put your shoes and put and it just becomes like the dog free zone. I have a double entrance to the front, specifically picked this place because I'm like, oh, that makes me feel a lot better for that reason. But he still hangs out right at that door. So we could create a pen. In her case, I think the time we would take to work on any type of confinement would set us back, and there's no need for it. So I didn't feel like it was necessary. I would rather focus on building up a really, really strong reinforcement at a station. Specifically, I think the bed that's right around the corner from the door, and getting her really used to laying there where she's not staring at the door, obsessing over the door. Even if she's just kind of listening out, that's better than being at it. I would rather focus on that than closing her in, because again, in every other aspect of your life, there's just no need.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, if you got to the point a year or two from now where you felt like the separation anxiety was really in a good place, then I would suggest getting something wildly different from whatever you used before. So like a cloth kennel, maybe. Like if you used a metal wire one, get a cloth one or get a plastic one, and then start to work on it really casually with as like a almost emergency preparedness thing, because in a vet or grooming emergency, she will be kenneled. Right? Like that's just the truth. If you have like a sudden need to travel, or if she were to escape and be held somewhere, just it's one of those things where it's not a priority right now. But if some of these other priorities are taken care of, it might be worth working on that one day, especially if you're like, separation anxiety is done. We're going into agility. Okay, now she needs to be comfortable in a kennel.
Which is where I was kind of going with that, because when my trainer said that they have to be crated until they're run, I was like, oh, well, we're out.
So I would go ahead and get a cloth kennel that is bigger than what you need, because that would still be allowed at an agility trial. And we can start introducing it to her as a novel item, unzip everything, leave it open in your living room for like the next month or two. And that's where you start. And there will be no pressure. You're already ahead of the curve. There you go.
Everything. I have a cloth one, a metal one, a plastic one, a pen. I have it all. She owns my house.
The pen, I think you could use that to put in front of the door, like to block that off. I think that would be something to try, especially in combination with building up the reinforcement of being on that bed. That's not her place bed. That's right around the corner. And it's been right around the corner. Like that's the spot it's been for a while. So
yeah. Still there, right there.
Yeah.
So okay.
Okay, anything to add, Jerri? That was management, but with some other kind of other things sprinkled
Yeah,
in.
I think everything sounds awesome.
Okay.
I was just going to add a couple of things that you had already said about just different ways to use crates, introduce them, not use them, habit, all the things. But I do agree. Enzo doesn't use a crate other than when he chooses to go in it and lay down. But he is crate trained because I'm paranoid about, this really big, powerful dog. I know your dog is much smaller, but just the thought of him being freaked out inside of a crate, and if he gets loose or if whatever at the doctor or at the vet, I just think ultimately at some point you're going to have to think about doing that. So take as long as possible in the process. Like she was saying, just you've already got the stuff, just get it out and start working on it. I've seen some really cool stuff in other countries where crates aren't allowed, the way that they kind of manage and give their dogs these little like areas and rooms. It's really cool. So there's stuff down the road, when you get there. Choices. You don't just have to put them in a crate.
Hey, I just had to recondition.
What you hear.
I just went through that whole process with Remy because of the car kennel.
Oh yeah.
I saw that.
And he got stressed again
inspired.
over the weekend, taking him to my parents on like a 35-minute ride, even though he was fine for like 2 hours last weekend. So got to bring it back inside. Work on it some more.
Yeah. It's the same with Enzo. I don't, he's weird about things in the vehicle. So we can be fine. And then something happens that I may not even see or know, or it might even be me, my energy, my attitude. Yeah. If I'm rushing the children, he can feel that. And he's like, I don't, and then here we go. Now we're backwards. So, and I just have accepted I've just accepted that this bothers my dog. And no amount of me wishing it to not be so is ever going to change it. So they all have their little things, that we're working on. You're not alone.
The car is a whole nother story. We won't get there. We won't go there.
I grew up with a little poodle. When my grandparents passed away, we got her, and then I also had a cockapoo, all growing up. So I'm actually very familiar with the disposition that Penelope has, that personality. Like I grew up with 2 dogs. When Mattison, when I watched the first video, I was like, oh, I already know.
Yeah.
So I can feel it, but there's a lot of intelligence inside of that little dog, and I'm sure that I'm a very sensitive, intelligent person as well, so I can understand. And so is Mattison, so I understand, and you probably are too. We attract, our dogs, are very much like us, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Absolutely.
Okay, so some of these skills that we wanted to start developing, and we have started developing, are the scatters in a way to desensitize to novel items. So bringing them more out into the world and taking off some of the pressure from that. So that way it's just like freebies. The stationing, as opposed to a place command. It's a little bit different from go to her bed, to counter condition to the pre-departure cues. And building up a little bit more resilience to the frustration, especially in the context of enrichment. I'm not surprised that she's also an easily frustrated dog. That to me makes sense. What does that look like in agility when she gets frustrated with something?
So, she just jumps. So the teeter is our main frustration, and I think it's partly to do with the movement, because she'll do it when it's completely blocked off. So when there's zero movement, she'll do it. But as soon as there's a slight bit of movement, she opts out, and she will go halfway and then jump off. So she just quit.
And what does she do right after she jumps off?
She'll come to me. She comes directly to me. Yeah.
It sounds like she gets frustrated. She has a really hard time self-soothing, and she will immediately, I call it, and I know I'm not saying that dogs are thinking at this level, but when humans do it, it's like they're smearing their emotions all over the place. It's almost like she comes and dumps them on you because she's not sure. Is that accurate? Or
I would agree with that. It's like she's like, I can't do this. I need your help. And it's weird. I don't know if they really do this, but even when she's uncomfortable outside, like say she has a piece of poop stuck to her foot, okay? Like when she immediately comes to me and I have to figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you got poop, maybe you got poop stuck or whatever, and something's wrong with her. And she immediately
Always
comes to me.
decoding her, like you're trying to always figure, okay.
Yeah, and even if I have a lot of hair, and so does she. So she might get a piece of hair stuck in her tooth. So then she comes to me, and I'm looking at her mouth, and I pull the hair out, and then she's fine. And
Okay.
it's like, what is? It's like a toddler that literally cannot talk.
Yeah.
And she comes over to me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, now I have to figure out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Are you dying? Like, what's going on?
I mean, at some
And she
level,
does it in agility too.
at some level, you want that because you want your dog to feel comfortable coming and trying to communicate with you. But when she doesn't have any autonomy, that's where I start to go, okay, how can we help you determine this is a thing I need to help you with, or this is a thing that we're going to go
figure it out
past this right now, which is much like a toddler. Oh, I feel like I'm talking about my 5-year-old right now. Like, okay, this is not, you need to go to someone else for this, or how can I help you figure this out? Which you can't explain to a dog that they need to pull hair off of their canine tooth. Like I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Decoding.
that, or even some of her puzzle toys, like she'll just walk away. Like the snuff, like I got her a snuffle mat, and I'll scatter food in there, and I thought it was the food, like it wasn't like high enough value that she just was like, this is kibble, I don't care, and she just walks away. And I'm like, I'll kind of get her to try to come back, and she just no, and walks away.
Okay. She just doesn't like the texture of it, or what do you think? She won't even.
No.
Probably we needed to do scatters around it first.
Yeah.
Because probably the snuffle was new all in and of itself. She's like, I ain't putting my face in that thing. I don't know.
Or or maybe like put a paper towel on it so that part of the stuff will show the part. Yeah, it might just be, how people won't touch things or they won't eat stuff because it texturally looks weird, or they won't touch something. I think dogs feel that way too about a lot of stuff.
That makes sense.
And the smarter they are.
The Kong wobblers, I had one of those too, and I just gave it away because
we can't use that because it's so loud.
Yeah.
We have one that we like that's much quieter.
But she will use when I put the West Paws topples together, she'll use that.
Yeah. Yep.
And she'll move that around and eat
so
out.
So she has some pretty specific preferences about things, where some dogs, kind of like people, some people are like, whatever, it's cool, I don't care. And me, I'm like, I'm not touching that. I'm not eating that. No, and no. Okay. Yeah. That's important to know, because I think that to expect our dogs to change fundamental core things about themselves is unfair. I don't like all of the lights to be on, and you're not going to train me to make me like it. I prefer that they not be on. I can deal with them being on, but it bothers me, and I'm going to exhibit behaviors if I am overly bothered for too long by it. And so I think some of the stuff that's happening with her probably is like that. And then how do we provide a really good balance with some of these skills so that we're still honoring kind of who she is and not pushing her, but also toddler.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she is getting frustrated with the enrichment. It seems like she's sensitive to some of these, and they're just like, it almost wouldn't be worth desensitizing her to the cotton wobbler because it's so loud. Like, I don't like that. I don't want it in my home, which is what. So, yeah, I agree. I think having a couple of enrichment items that at least take mealtime from what would be maybe like, a 4 or 5 minute activity and make it like a 10-minute activity, just to get her like slowing down. And I don't mean necessarily physically, because I know that she's not like at risk of just gobbling it down, just to have her have some fun with it, and fun that isn't necessarily dependent on interacting with you. We don't need to have like an endless list, just a couple.
Who's that account? Mattison, I think it's Kingston, the doodle. There's 2 little doodles. They look almost just like Penelope. I like same color and everything. And they have this incredible Instagram account where they constantly put out DIY enrichment. because they live like in some major city. And so they're always like showing you different, really cost effective enrichment, just different things that I have not seen before. So you might check them out too, because you run across something that seems, that looks good one day.
Yeah. She
It's
likes
hard to
look
come up
mat.
with ideas on your own.
She will enjoy a look mat.
Oh,
It's
good. Yeah.
easy for
I just
her.
bought one of those for Enzo
Yeah.
and he liked it. Yeah, good.
Okay, so I want to jump down to the timeline real quick. We can adjust this a little bit too, because I think we can actually go ahead and start using the cloth kennel as like a specific novel item for us to be working on the desensitization. So I think if you can just put that somewhere where she doesn't spend a whole lot of time, but she would like be aware of it, and then just unzip every door and do nothing else for now. And then we're gonna start our 4 weeks together. What day is today? Monday. Yeah, we can start today. We'll start today. So next week we'll talk about maybe doing something a little bit more with that. But I also will be curious to see if she like won't go within 10 feet of that corner, if she goes and sniffs and is curious, like
Me
this will
too.
be information collecting. Because we're not like, we're going to take all the pressure off of it. Like, oh, no, girl, this is for me. This isn't even for you. Don't even worry about it. Right. And working on, I feel like we do already have a good reinforcement history of the scatter, but again, building it up without necessarily having her wait or do anything else. It's just find it, nose to the ground. Like, I want her to hear the cue, find it, and just be sniffing. And
So I did that last week on our evening walk. I just took her evening meal with me, and she did great. So I just had to, my brain had to be ready to say, find it and let it go before anything else.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
I always
awesome.
just think of it like with Enzo, I think of it as this like little red string. Like I'm throwing it and his head's going down. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for immediate response. And I like to think of it once he gets it as just like me throwing glitter and flowers out, and people can see that I'm glittering and flowering. I don't know if that helps.
That's probably how people say it.
Yeah.
And then I think really heavily focusing on the stationing activity. So doing that free shaping with the unelevated bed. Yes, pay, yes, pay, yes, pay, yes, pay, release her, right? Just huge reinforcements on that bed with like no expectations. I think that's going to we're going to see her start to want to go there and just offer that up and hang out there. I think very, very quickly, we're going to want to use that if she does get agitated or upset or stressed out and kind of looks to you like, Mom! Walk over there and just kind of stare at the bed. And the second she gets on it, yes, pay, yes, pay, yes, pay. Again, I know we're running out of time, and I want to just very briefly and high level say a lot of separation anxiety specialists are not going to recommend you train with food. But I feel that we lose a lot of opportunity to be really clear with these activities and building up reinforcement that doesn't necessarily have to do with us. I think that Penelope, sometimes she looks like she doesn't know what to do. And like we said, if you're not there, then she doesn't have direction. So we need to build self-soothe. And to do that, we need there to be a station for that.
Are we naming this, or we're just
Nope.
no name?
No name.
Okay.
Just lots of yeses. Lots of yeses over there. You can say find it and sprinkle them right on there until she actually steps on it, and then just yes, yes, yes. And so we will be checking in with you on Wednesday to see how things are going. So please feel free to submit videos between now and then.
Especially if you have questions about what you're doing on that stationing. Like, I would rather you just do it wrong and try, and just make sure you put the camera up and show us. And then we can be like, oh, actually, but don't be like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just not going to do it. Don't do that. Just try and do the best you can.
Thanks so much for your time today, Cristina, and I'll talk to you soon. unPACKed was created by Jerri Scherff and Mattison Skoog-Simpson, and edited and produced by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk LLC and Emily Breslin. See you next time.